Hey there, all my Weather Geek friends. It is the final edition of Weather for Weather Geeks here in the month of January 2019. January, my least favorite month from a weather perspective of the year, so I'm glad to see it going. You know, January is a long month. It's 31 days. The holidays are over. It's the dead of winter. I'm looking for signs of spring, and we're going to get some of those signs this weekend, even though it's, you know, of course, any warm-up in early February is usually fool's gold. We'll talk about that in a minute. First of all, since it is the end of January, I did want to review what happened in January. This was our January forecast put out on New Year's Eve, and whenever I do these monthly forecasts, I think it's a good idea to see how we did, see if we learned anything. This was the forecast, and then here's a look at, after it zooms in, I'll show you what happened. Now, of course, the idea here was that it would be a somewhat warmer than average month. Here's what happened. It ended up being pretty close to exactly average temperature-wise. Here in Northeast Ohio, the warmer than average temperatures, were a little more pronounced in Central Ohio, and certainly as you get down into the Southeast. This forecast, for our local area, I'd give it a B-. I wasn't way off. It's not like we had a warm forecast. It ended up being super cold, but this map and what actually happened is okay on a national scale. Did pretty well with the warmth down here, and this was okay. This map is too warm looking up across the upper Midwest, certainly. Did hit this cooler than average anomaly out in the Four Corners region. That ended up being all right. But of course, most people watching this video care about Northeast Ohio, Western PA, and the forecast was okay. Ended up being pretty typical January temperature-wise with some pretty wild swings. We started the month with a 60, and we ended the month with a high of 8 degrees this afternoon. So quite a contrast from the first day of the month to the end of the month. It ended up being a pretty snowy month at 0.8 inches worth of snow at the Youngstown Warren Airport in Vienna. That's about 5.2 inches above the average. The weekends were particularly snowy, especially Saturdays. So we had measurable snow 3 of the 4 Saturdays and 3 of the 4 Sundays as well. Of course, the 19th and 20th is when we had our big mid-month storm that brought some areas pretty close to a foot worth of snow. All right, with the rapidly changing and turning colder air masses over the last handful of days, pretty stark increase in the amount of ice forming on the Great Lakes, including the shallowest lake, Lake Erie. This map looked a lot different not that long ago, and look at how fast this has grown. I mean, there was basically no ice on the Lake Erie, about 2.5 weeks ago. Started to see a little bit on, say, the 15th, when the winter storm moved through that weekend, and then over the last 2 weeks, yikes. We're up to 84% ice coverage now on Lake Erie. Lake Erie may, pretty much completely freeze over the next 24 to 36 hours, and then I suspect a lot of that ice will start to thaw with the warm air that's coming our way. All right, progress, the name of the game today, that is for sure. We started out this morning with wind chills still near 20 below, but by the time a lot of people were heading home from work, the wind chills were closer to 10 below. Again, we're not going to mistake this for warm, but it did improve as expected. All right, here's our snowmaker for tomorrow morning. Let's shift our focus now into what's going to happen in the future. And what's going to happen is we're going to get clipped by this little clipper system. They call it a clipper for a reason. It usually just sort of quickly moves through. And this will start spreading snow our way before daybreak on Friday. So I think the snow will begin on average between 3 and 5 a.m. on your Friday. Now, this will be a Central Ohio special. I'll show you the snow map in a second. We'll be on the northern fringes of this, but despite the modest snowfall amounts, and the snow should taper off by about midday, despite the modest amounts, I think the impacts can be significant tomorrow morning because of the timing coming in just before and during our Friday morning commute, and also how cold it's going to be. Air temperatures are going to be close to 10 degrees when it's snowing, so salt won't be particularly effective. The bullseye for this, 3 to 4 inch snow will be pretty common along the I-70 corridor from Dayton to Columbus and over towards Zanesville and Cambridge as well. Closer to home, I think a lot of people in our television viewing area, let's zoom in even further, in our television viewing area will get a coating to an inch, inch and a half. Your best chance of seeing the top end of the range, about 2, I think will be generally from Hanoverton to Salineville to East Liverpool, kind of that zone. That's where you have the highest chance, I think, of seeing about 2 inches. But even if you get 3/4 of an inch, again, every flake can stick at that time of the day, and because it is at a time of the day when a lot of people are trying to head to work and school, the impacts can be more significant than if we were getting a sloppy inch at noon and temperatures were around 32. This is an inch or so for some places with temperatures near 10 degrees. during rush hour, so that's why I have, pretty elevated impacts for you for your Friday morning. All right, so we're going to warm up over the weekend. Temperatures on Saturday should reach the lower 40s. Super Bowl Sunday will be in the lower 50s. I think the sun's going to try to come out Sunday afternoon. It'll be downright nice outside Sunday afternoon, I think. And temperatures should peak in the mid-50s on Monday. Now, there will be some chances for rain early next week. I wanted to show you the 6 to 10-day map because there's a lot of vivid colors on this map today. Warmer than average down here, and definitely winter making a big comeback across the northern plains and northern Rockies during this period. Now, we're kind of in between. We're in kind of a transitional period here. I think days 6 and 7, middle of next week, we're still a little on the mild side. But then towards next weekend, which is the weekend before Valentine's Day, so around that would be like the 9th, 10th, I do think that this colder air will start to make inroads, and we'll be reminded that it is indeed February. I'll do my February forecast tomorrow evening on Weather for Weather Geeks and 21 News at 6 and 11. If you remember, our original winter forecast featured really cold air in February. I do not think it's going to be as cold as I originally thought it would be. It looks like we had that pretty big cold snap a week early, technically still in January, of course. But I do think there will be plenty of opportunities for cold in February, and I suspect it's going to be a pretty snowy month compared to the average. So we're still running a deficit for the winter season thanks to almost no snow in December. But I think we're going to make up some ground once again in February. So look for those details tomorrow evening on the February 1st edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great Thursday night.